Hey folks, it's become common on my public history practice class at Johns Hopkins. We're coming to you to be participants in our module this week, which is the public history of Anne Frank, and so much of Anne Frank relates to Anne Frank's diary. So what we want into is delve into the sort of the complexities of her story, and more to the point, kind of its enduring relevance today when we're talking about persecution, we're talking about oppression, we're talking about the kind of lessons that can be learned from personal narratives, powerful ones like Anne Frank's. So my big question to you all is, how did you first come to your understanding of Anne Frank and her world and her experience? Now, we all know about the diary. But that diary has been presented in a number of different ways. It's presented in a play. It's been presented in films. Has it been in National Geographic's wonderful A Small Light, portrayed by Billy Boulay? Has it been through the Anne Frank House visiting, or has it been through the Anne Frank House's digital presence? If you haven't taken a look at what they've done on their YouTube channel in terms of the video diary of Anne Frank, go check it out. If you're in the United States, you can't watch it because of copyright issues, but you can see what they do in terms of the background of it. You can see what they do in terms of telling the story of Anne after the arrest, which is a really compelling way to engage audiences about the nature of her lived experience through the camps and to the end. But if you are outside of the United States, you can in fact go watch this wonderful program that they did to try to connect younger audiences to the diary today. Have you read the diary? Which version have you read? Have you read the original version that was edited by her father, or have you read subsequent versions? Have you read the complete definitive version that includes all three versions that you can compare and contrast with one another and read more and more of her personal experiences? Something that is so wonderful and so powerful about her personal narrative is not just that it is history. It is that she is acting through history, creating history, reflecting history at the moment that you can live it with her, with everything that we can know and everything that we cannot know about her life and times. We might not know how it ends. She doesn't. She doesn't know what's coming. She doesn't know what's around the corner. She doesn't know what's happening from the day that she gets her diary to the day that they go into hiding, to the day that they are arrested. This is history, right? We don't know what's going to happen next, but we can see the patterns and we can learn from them, and we can learn from through the eyes and ears and words of this extraordinary young woman. So, as we begin this week, as we begin this module, you have been so amazing in participating in this path for my students. I want to hear from you. How have you encountered Anne Frank's diary? In what way? How has it influenced your understanding of the Shoah? How has it influenced your understanding of oppression and persecution today? The kind of work that the Anne Frank House does now, and in more to the point, along with the point, the Anne Frank Youth Network. If you haven't seen the work that they do today in helping people understand civic engagement, democracy, the kind of bulwarks of society that help people defend themselves against the forces of extremism, go check out the Anne Frank Youth Network. They're on all major social networks. They're on TikTok, they're on Instagram, and they do a lot in terms of engaging young people across the world with these kinds of issues. So have you visited the house? Which version of the diary have you encountered? And have you engaged her story in any other way? We are talking about here one of the fundamental concepts of modern public history practice, which is the historical imaginative. Just a whole bunch of fancy words to say, how does your story of Anne Frank get created? Everyone has their own personal story about the past. How do you come to understand the past? That is entirely through stories. Those stories might be derived from academic scholarship, and that's great. Those stories might be derived entirely from popular media, and that's fine. But you put all of these things together to create your own understanding of any historical subject, any historical person, any historical event. So how did you come to create your own historical imaginative of Anne Frank? And then another big concept in public history practice that we're only beginning to explore the importance of is the historiographical imaginative. Each of those individual points A Small Light on National Geographic has a historiographical role to play. It, in fact, tells the story of Miep Geese and her husband and the other people who protected Anne Frank during those years, but it also tells the story about resistance. Resistance to extremism, resistance to persecution, resistance to bigotry and prejudice. And that is part of your historiographical imaginative. It is a source that informs your understanding of the past and, particularly for this story, how it relates to our present. So it's about personal narratives and how that shapes public memory and how that shapes understanding and how it helps you in building empathy through public history, which is one of public history's great values. Having you literally, or at least figuratively, step into the shoes of somebody else and experience their world on their own terms, particularly when it comes to voices that were actively suppressed, were actively erased. And when it comes to people like Anne Frank, we know that that's the case. We need to restore those voices by amplifying them today. And I think that the Anne Frank House is doing wonderful work to do this, especially through their digital engagement. I'm the film and digital media for the public historian, and I think that this is some of the best work that's being done through the Anne Frank Youth Network. Go and check them out and let me know what it is you think. But maybe you're already a part of all these things and you're already aware. So as we put together our class module for this week on the public history of Anne Frank, again, different from the academic history of it, but also different from the popular history of it, we're that synergy in between that helps spark conversation, that helps spark engagement, that doesn't put a period on things, that actually starts a conversation about it. So whether you're a seasoned expert on Anne Frank and her experience in the war, or you're just starting your journey, your perspective is invaluable, as it has been for so many of the other subjects that we've covered in this class already. So let's come together and we can honor Anne Frank's memory and we can explore the lessons that she still has to teach us today. Thanks so much. Put your comments below and I'm going to share them with my students, and we use them every single week. Thanks.